Suit up and grapple in because we're heading to Gotham City with Batman Begins. This wasn't your average superhero tie-in. This was a dark and gritty adventure that truly captured the essence of the Dark Knight. Remember that feeling of becoming Batman as you stalked through the shadows, taking down criminals one by one? This game nailed that feeling perfectly. The combat was a mix of stealth and brutal takedowns, letting you choose your approach to each encounter. You could be a silent predator, picking off enemies with well-placed batarangs, or you could go in guns blazing with a flurry of punches and kicks. And the fear system? Brilliant! Nothing like striking fear into the hearts of criminals as Batman should. But Batman Begins wasn't just about beating up thugs, it also nailed the detective work. Remember using your detective vision to piece together clues and solve puzzles? It was a cool twist on the usual superhero formula, making you feel like you were actually using your brain for once. So yeah, Batman Begins, a superhero game that actually did the Caped Crusader justice. It was dark, it was atmospheric, and it let you be the goddamn Batman. If you're looking for a superhero adventure that's more than just punching bad guys, this is the one for you. Just try not to get too lost in the shadow. Van Helsing Monster Hunter Extraordinaire. Get your crucifixes and wooden stakes ready, because we're hunting monsters in Van Helsing. This game was like a gothic horror buffet, throwing everything from werewolves to vampires to Frankenstein's monster at you. Remember the thrill of facing off against these classic creatures of the night? Van Helsing delivered that and then some. You played as the legendary monster hunter himself, wielding an arsenal of weapons that would make Buffy the Vampire Slayer jealous. You had your trusty crossbow for ranged attacks, your grappling hook for getting around, and of course, your trusty stake for those up-close and personal encounters. But Van Helsing wasn't just about mindless monster bashing. It also had RPG elements, letting you customize your character with different skills and abilities. You could focus on ranged combat, becoming a master of the crossbow, or go full-on melee, wielding your stake with deadly precision. And the environments, from the gothic castles of Transylvania to the shadowy streets of London, Van Helsing was a visual treat. So, yeah, Van Helsing, a game that let you live out your monster hunting fantasies. It was a game that didn't take itself too seriously, delivering over-the-top action and cheesy one-liners in equal measure. If you're a fan of classic horror movies or just looking for a fun and action-packed game, Van Helsing is definitely worth checking out. Just don't blame me if you start seeing vampires in the shadows afterward. Chapter 6. God of War 2. Kratos, Unleashed. Prepare for a Spartan-sized dose of rage because we're diving into God of War 2. This game wasn't just a sequel. It was a declaration of war on the gods themselves. Kratos was back, and he was angrier than ever. Remember that feeling of pure, unadulterated rage as you ripped through mythological creatures with the blades of chaos? This game was a symphony of violence and vengeance. God of War 2 took everything that made the first game great and cranked it up to 11. The combat was even more brutal and satisfying, with new weapons and combos that let you unleash devastating attacks on your enemies. And the boss battles? Epic doesn't even begin to describe them. Fighting the Colossus of Rhodes or the Kraken was an experience you wouldn't soon forget. But God of War 2 wasn't just about mindless violence. It also had a compelling story of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Kratos' journey was a tragic one, filled with loss and anger, but it was also a story of a man trying to find his place in a world that had turned against him. So, yeah, God of War 2, a game that redefined action-adventure gaming. It was a game that pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the PS2, delivering stunning visuals, epic boss battles, and a story that would stay with you long after the... Chapter 7, The Punisher, Justice, we call that revenge. Time to dish out some vigilante justice because we're talking about The Punisher. This wasn't your typical superhero game, this was a gritty and violent thrill ride through the criminal underworld. Forget saving kittens from trees. Frank Castle was all about delivering brutal justice, one bullet at a time. Remember the feeling of power as you interrogated thugs, using whatever means necessary to get information? The Punisher let you embrace your dark side, becoming judge, jury, and executioner all in one. And the arsenal. Sweet baby Jesus, the arsenal. From pistols to shotguns to assault rifles, you had a weapon for every occasion. And that's not even mentioning the environmental kills. Using a car door to crush a guy's head? Don't mind if I do. But The Punisher wasn't just about mindless violence. Okay, maybe it was a little bit about mindless violence, but it also had a surprisingly engaging story. It explored Frank Castle's past, his motivations, and the toll that his one-man war on crime had taken on him. So yeah, The The Punisher, a game that let you live out your vigilante fantasies. It was a game that didn't shy away from the brutality of the source material, delivering a dark and violent experience that was not for the faint of heart. If you're looking for a game that lets you unleash your inner badass, The Punisher is definitely worth checking out. Just try not to get arrested for excessive force in the real world, okay? Chapter 8, Devil May Cry 3, Smokin' Sexy Style. Get ready to unleash your inner demon hunter because we're talking about Devil May Cry 3. This wasn't just a game, it was a stylish ballet of bullets and blades. Dante was back, and he was ready to rock your world with his signature blend of cocky attitude and demon-slaying skills. Remember the feeling of pulling off an insane combo? Juggling enemies in the air with a mix of gunplay and swordsmanship? Devil May Cry 3 perfected the formula, delivering some of the most satisfying and stylish combat ever seen in a video game. And the music! Oh man, the music! Those heavy metal riffs got you pumped up and ready to kick some demon butt. But Devil May Cry 3 wasn't just about looking cool while slaying demons, it also had a surprisingly deep and engaging story. It explored Dante's past, his relationship with his brother Virgil, and the origins of their demonic powers. So yeah, Devil May Cry 3, a game that redefined what it meant to be stylish. It was a game that combined over-the-top action with a surprisingly engaging story, creating an experience that was both thrilling and memorable. If you're a fan of action games, you owe it to yourself to check out Devil May Cry 3. Just be prepared to spend hours mastering those combos and looking damn good while Resident Evil 4, where horror got real. Hold on to your heads because we're entering the realm of survival, horror, with Resident Evil 4. This wasn't your typical zombie shooter, this was a tense, atmospheric, and downright terrifying experience that redefined the genre. Remember that feeling of dread as you navigated through the creepy Spanish village, never knowing what lurked around the corner? Resident Evil 4 nailed that feeling perfectly. Gone were the clunky controls and fixed camera angles of the previous games. Resident Evil 4 introduced an over-the-shoulder perspective that put you right in the heart of the action, and the enemies. Those creepy villagers were like nothing you'd ever seen before, chanting in strange tongues and wielding weapons like chainsaws and pitchforks. But Resident Evil 4 wasn't just about shooting creepy villagers in the face, it also had a surprisingly engaging story with twists and turns that kept you guessing until the very end. And let's not forget the merchant, what are you buying? His iconic line became a meme, and his presence added a touch of levity to the otherwise terrifying game. So yeah, Resident Evil 4, a game that redefined survival horror. It was a game that balanced action and horror perfectly, creating an experience that was both terrifying and exhilarating. If you're a fan of horror games, you owe it to yourself to check out Resident Evil 4. Just be prepared to lose some sleep. Ready to infiltrate some top-secret facilities because we're talking about Metal Gear Solid. This wasn't just a game, it was a stealth masterpiece that redefined the genre. Remember the thrill of sneaking past guards, using your wits and gadgets to outsmart your enemies? Metal Gear Solid made you feel like a true secret agent. From hiding in cardboard boxes to using your trusty silenced pistol to take down enemies, Metal Gear Solid was all about using stealth and strategy to overcome your opponents. And the story? Oh man, the story. It was a complex and engaging tale of political intrigue, genetic engineering, and giant robots. But Metal Gear Solid wasn't just about sneaking around and listening to codec conversations. It also had some truly memorable boss battles, each requiring a unique strategy to defeat. Who could forget the epic showdown with Psycho Mantis, where he read your mind and made your controller vibrate? So, yeah, Metal Gear Solid, a game that redefined stealth action. It was a game that combined innovative gameplay with a deep and engaging story, creating an experience that was both thrilling and thought-provoking. If you're a fan of stealth games, you owe it to yourself to check out Metal Gear Solid. Just be prepared for some mind-bending twists and turns. Because we're hitting the streets in Need for Speed Underground 2. This wasn't just a racing game, it was a cultural phenomenon that defined a generation of car enthusiasts. Remember the thrill of customizing your ride with the hottest aftermarket parts, then taking it to the streets to battle it out against other racers? Need for Speed Underground 2 captured that feeling perfectly. From the neon-lit streets of Bayview to the winding mountain passes, Need for Speed Underground 2 offered a variety of environments to test your driving skills. And the cars. Oh man, the cars. From classic American muscle cars to sleek Japanese tuners, Need for Speed Underground 2 had a car for everyone. But Need for Speed Underground 2 wasn't just about racing. It was also about style and customization. You could spend hours tweaking your ride, adding body kits, spoilers, rims, and paint jobs until it was truly your own. And the soundtrack. Need for Speed Underground 2 had one of the best soundtracks of any racing game, with a mix of hip-hop, electronic, and rock music that got your adrenaline pumping. So yeah, Need for Speed Underground 2, a game that defined a generation of racing games. It was a game that combined fast-paced racing with deep customization options and an unforgettable soundtrack, creating an experience that was both thrilling and stylish. Author PPK, and prepare to be shaken, not stirred, because we're stepping into the world of espionage with James Bond 007, Everything or Nothing. This wasn't just a movie tie-in, this was a Bond adventure that truly captured the essence of the iconic franchise. Remember the thrill of infiltrating secret lairs, engaging in high-speed car chases, and using your gadgets to outsmart your enemies? Everything or Nothing nailed it. From the snowy peaks of the Alps to the bustling streets of Cairo, this game took you on a globe-trotting adventure filled with action and intrigue. And the gadgets, oh man, the gadgets. From laser watches to grappling hooks to remote-controlled cars, Everything or Nothing had it all. But Everything or Nothing wasn't just about shooting and driving your way through levels. It also had a surprisingly engaging story with twists and turns that would make even Ian Fleming proud. And the voice acting. Having Pierce Brosnan, Judi Dench, and John Cleese reprise their roles from the films added a level of authenticity that was truly special. So yeah, James Bond 007, Everything or Nothing. A game that truly captured the spirit of Bond. It was a game that combined thrilling action with espionage, gadgets, and a touch of humor, creating an experience that was both exciting and stylish. If you're a fan of the Bond franchise, you owe it to yourself to check out Everything or Swinging into action. Get ready to swing through the streets of New York City because we're talking about Spider-Man 2. This wasn't just a movie tie-in, it was a superhero masterpiece that set a new standard for web-slinging action. Remember the feeling of soaring through the air, effortlessly swinging from building to building? Spider-Man 2 nailed that feeling like no game before it. The open world was vast and detailed, allowing you to explore every nook and cranny of the city that never sleeps. And the combat? Oh man, the combat. It was fluid, acrobatic, and oh so satisfying to string together combos, using your webs and your agility to take down your enemies. But Spider-Man 2 wasn't just about beating up criminals. It also had a surprisingly heartfelt story that explored Peter Parker's struggles with his double life as a superhero. And the voice acting. Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, and Alfred Molina all reprised their roles from the film, adding a layer of authenticity to the experience. So yeah, Spider-Man 2, a game that truly captured the essence of being Spider-Man. It was a game that combined exhilarating web-slinging action with a compelling story and memorable characters, creating an experience that was both thrilling and heartwarming. If you're a fan of superhero games, you owe it to yourself to check out Spider-Man 2. It's a classic for a reason. The Thing. This wasn't your typical action horror flick turned game, this was psychological terror at its finest. Remember that feeling of isolation and paranoia from the movie? This game bottled that up and poured it directly into your PS2. You weren't just fighting grotesque monsters in The Thing, you were fighting the fear of not knowing who to trust. The game had this awesome trust system where your squad mates could turn on you at any moment. One minute they're covering your six, the next they're sprouting tentacles and trying to eat your face. It made every encounter a tense standoff. Do you trust your gut and blast your buddy before he turns? Or do you risk it and hope for the best? And the creature design? Don't even get me started. Those things were the stuff of nightmares, all pulsating flesh and gnashing teeth. The Thing was a masterclass in atmosphere and suspense, proving that you don't need jump scares to make a truly terrifying game. It messed with your head, kept you on edge, and left you questioning every shadow. If you're looking for a horror game that'll get under your skin, The Thing is a must-play. Just don't blame me if you can't sleep with the lights off afterward.